Good morning. I talked about going over like my writing process that I used this time because it was really effective for the NaNoWriMo. But this time I'm going to do it from scratch. Well, not really from scratch, but I'm using it as an editing feature this time for my the story I've already finished actually, and I'm in my third draft. So the base idea um, is something that like I always start with. Like, what is my main starting point? So this base idea was lit RPG plus sliders um, with magic weapons slash skill trees. Um, I don't know if you guys know about Sliders. It was an old TV show on the Sci-Fi Channel. Very, very old TV show. Um, and it was really fun. I liked it. I mean, I guess kind of weird like that. It was like these like people just were jumping from alternate worlds to alternate worlds, and so I thought that would be a really fun situation for a lit RPG. Um, so the story circle is is probably the best outlining process for a pure pantser. um, just because it's so basic that you don't really like it. It's like a connect the dot thing, and as a pantser, it's what I've pretty much only used because it's so open. I don't have to actually pay attention so much. Um, but I've liked the change that I've made and made it a little more structured in my current outline. But the base story circle is point 0.1 to point 0.8, and I've added point 0 and point 0.9. Point 0 is essentially kind of not really a prologue, but just kind of like a starting point. Whereas point 3 is your inciting incident. Point 5 is your midway point. Um, 7 is like the start of your climax, and 8 is where the climax is over, the ending. 9, what I added is kind of your wrap up, like your characters, like how do you leave the story. 0 and 9 are not really as important, but so for this one, it's just like um, normal life. It didn't really have much of a starting thing. Um, Teaching. Mm, Dies, kind of. Transported to a new world. So that was my insight, like how I kind of set up my starting point in the story, and it was just like this character who's running away from his normal life, like his life is trying to teach in another country, and then he accidentally shoves one of his students into the street because he doesn't like physical contact, and she touched him. Um, Being kind of friendly, and it was right in front of an oncoming bus, which my friends still say I should change to a truck because truck coon. Um, and then he basically leaps in front of it and pushes her out of the way and gets hit by the truck, kind of. And that's when he is offered uh, by some mysterious god to become a slider kind of character and go between the different worlds with this kind of magic system. And so he accepts rather than just dying and gets transported to the next world. Then we get introduced to the zombie world. Um, I can't spell the word liches. Liches. Liches? Yeah, liches is fine. Liches controlling zombies. I apparently am still the worst speller in the world. He loses friends for power and time. And that's how I kind of set it up. That's how the base of the story was he has his normal life, he's teaching, dies kind of, and then he's transported to the next world. It's a zombie world, so he has to figure out everything in the zombie world. And he's trying to figure out how to save this settlement in the zombie world. And one of the things he figures out, like when trying to figure out how to save it, is that there's liches actually in the world, and they're controlling the zombies. So he has to go and fight the liches. You could also add training montage, because that kind of happens because he's learning about his powers and everything like that. He loses friends and power, and gains some power and time because of the death of his friends, and one of his friends becomes the bad guy, which is causing him problems because he can't strike a killing blow because he can't kill his friend who became the bad guy. And he eventually wins by killing his friend. And then after it's all said and done, he's transported to the next world with one of his friends who wanted to escape. And the world 2 is the Gundam world. And the plan I was doing is basically having one world per book. And this is the current set of the book. It's like, at the current draft, probably about 80 to 90,000, and I need to add some more parts to it, so I'm thinking it's probably going to end up at about 100,000 words. So the big character moment that I have for the character, like what is the big character moment, like his big kind of coming around, is one of his friends accepts him / his past, since he was a child soldier or a child assassin trained by his abusive father. And that's why he's kind of got this like really don't want to touch people thing issue going on. Yeah, so that's the big thing. It's like her support is basically what helps him move forward. So this is kind of what I've already had starting the story. This is what I used to finish writing the story. My writing group has gone all the way through it. And now I'm in the final process of cleaning it up, adding more things that I need to edit. And then now I want to use the 27-point structure, which is technically broken into 3 blocks, which is 1 to 9, 10 to 18, 19 to 27. And so this is like considered Act 1. And this is Act 2. And then this is Act 3. Oh no. And then each of these are broken into 3 blocks, technically. So you have like a block between this, and you have a block between this. I'm no expert on the 27-point structure, by the way. I've used it a few times, and this is the first time I've used it where it actually worked for me. So Like, just using it straight out of the gate did not work at all for me. Like, starting with the 27-point structure, I couldn't do anything with it. Sorry, my OCD is killing me about these lengths. Alright. And so this is kind of how it's set up. Like these, you got three blocks inside of 3 acts to get 27. And so the first one is, how do we see the main character in their everyday life? That's kind of how the story starts. Point 3 is still kind of the, like, well, technically point 2 is the inciting incident, but kind of ish. So it's like start 1 is teaching / dealing with students. Almost die / transported to another world. So for me, it's like 0, 1, 2, and 3 are all crushed into 2 points here. And so even though it's only 2 points, these can last pretty long. In my story for NaNoWriMo, these first 3 points are, I think they're 9 chapters. So it's like your normal, like your introduction setup, like you're introducing the world, like the base world, you're introducing the character, and you're trying to focus more on character and world building here, so you don't want to introduce too much. If you have the more you introduce, the longer these 2 points need to be. If you can cut some introduction out here and put it somewhere else later on, that's usually much better. But that's kind of how it happens. This next part is kind of a fallout. So the character has to react to the inciting incident. What do they do? So they accept it and not die / transport it. Almost dies. I guess this should be offered to become a mage / world hopper. And that's the starting point. So now we're in block 2, which is where he's starting to kind of have issues with everything. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. I've got a really bad head cold still, and I'm coughing. I meant to add another part to this. Name the story. I'm terrible with names. So I still haven't even named this story yet, by the way. I have no idea what the title of the book is. Alright, so the next one is kind of reaction, or how the character, what is the character doing or kind of fighting against when they're in this world. And so this kind of sets it up. So it's like, naked, character wants clothes, and to figure things out, fights zombies to save someone who becomes friend. More zombies are now trying to kill both of them. So now I've kind of set up this next block. So the character comes into the next world. None of his clothes remain. None of his possessions that he had are on him anymore. And he's naked in a brand new world trying to figure out what he's got to do. So he gets some clothes, sees a zombie nearly killing someone, and has to fight a zombie to save that person / zombie has magic. And the zombies of this world can use magic. So that's makes it a little more complicated. So he has to fight the zombie. He eventually kills the zombie. But doing that caused a lot of ruckus and some other unforeseen circumstance at this point caused more zombies to come after them. Lich orders more zombies after them. This is an unknown piece of information at this point because the liches, we don't even know there are liches in the story at this point. But that's how the second block is set up to happen. Then we go into block 3, and this is the end of Act 1, according to this kind of thing. And this is the resolution of the opening. So you have the pressure where the main character feels the weight of what's happening on them. Has to fight or has to sneak and fight to the tram, which is something that happens. Like they have to get to like basically an underground magically powered tram to escape a horde of zombies. The pinch, zombies followed and are chasing them, catching up. So the zombies, of course, magically powered, are using like speed magic, and are running fast enough to catch up to the tram. So that's a thing. Learns about magic and defeats the horde. So that's his big thing. He learns how to use the magic and gets stronger, and then is able to defeat the horde. Bullet system magic. So there are technically 3 types of magic in this world. So he learns about magic in part 7. So that's where he gets his introduction to magic. And then he kind of plays around with it and learns more about it. And because he's a mage, which is kind of a specific type of thing, he's got a second type of magic that he can use that other people cannot, but he cannot use it right now. But it also gives him more intuitive kind of nature to how magic works, aka he gets system windows that tells him like direct information on what a spell does, so he can actually just figure it out much easier than normal people. And this leads us into Act 2. Defeats the horde, and they make it to city. So they make it to the city. So this is where we move into Act 2, which is the main conflict of the story. This is where things get set up a little bit. Give me one second, I've got a bad cough still. Alright, sorry about that. I've got a cough drop in my mouth now. So now we're in Act 2, which is the main conflict of the story. And so the character is introduced to a new world. So in the new city, has to deal with friend's father, evil like his, and gets accustomed to things. So the main character is just like adjusting to the new city, learning about things. The next part of this is kind of a fun and games. So training with the magic, learning the 2 types of new magic, and his special magic. So this is where he has like a kind of a training montage where he's learning how to use he's learning more about the bullet system magic, and practicing with it and learning more stuff. And he's also learning about like ritual magic, which is a secondary type. Part of ritual magic is also crafting. He doesn't really learn about crafting at this point, and he doesn't really learn much about ritual magic, but it's kind of introduced and it's shown here. And then he's learned about his special type of magic, which is bonding the weapons, which makes him is what kind of makes him a mage, is bonding 7 different types of weapons that give him innate special abilities. And then kind of he has friends, and he can even deal with people touching him / wants to help his friends. So he meets new people, has more friends. It's kind of him coming to his new life, like you know, I don't want to kill people anymore. I'm no longer an assassin. I don't want to have to deal with that kind of shit. That kind of thing. So then we move on from this. We start to have more issues. We have the big kind of conflict. So something bad happens. So Mage Hunter awakens and sets off events / kills one of new friends. So the character has basically he breaks into this room and he decides to continue forward even though there's prompts warning him not to do it. He does it anyway, and that sets off an event, kills one of his friends, and causes it causes the Liches to fully enter the game. Liches fully enter. Rather than just kind of being an outside party doing minor things or just kind of slowly tweaking things, and now they're fully engaged in the conflict. So sorry, this cough is bad. We've got this kind of midway point. What's the character's kind of midway point? What is the character doing? What kind of happens that changes everything for the main character? Meets the Liches and is removed from the city / has to go a long way to return. So he's basically he's out of commission, and he has to get back to the city as quickly as possible in order to save his kind of new friends. Periods only on these 3 sentences. I don't know why. And this is kind of part of the story. The 15 is a reversal. He decides on a new course of action based on what has happened. So he befriends a rogue lich and works with him to save his son. Then makes a plan to use the lich to make the zombies go away. So with the lich's power to control zombies, there's really no need to kill millions and millions of zombies. Instead, they can just make the zombies go away. They can just he can use the lich to make them go away. And then we're in the resolution of Act 2, where things are setting up and becoming worse and worse, basically, setting up for the final conflict. So, this is where the hero kind of has the consequences, like what happened on his journey so far. So when they make it back to the city, so city is surrounded by army of zombies and liches. So there's basically like he's got to fight through a massive horde in order to get to his friends, and he doesn't know if his friends are safe inside the walls of the city or not because of how many zombies and liches are available. So he fights and kills liches with his friends slash liches to send excess zombies away. So that's how he kind of deals with it. He's sending all the liches away and he's having them fight there. At one point during the fight, though, did I put a T in Lich again? Yes. I don't know why I keep putting a T in Lich. I've done this for like a long time now. During the fight, his friend who is technically still controlled by the Mage Hunter's spell steals power from the other liches after MC kills them, and he becomes super bad guy. Or he starts to become super bad guy and escapes in a cocoon. So this is how he. So this is the setup at the end. Is his friend is now kind of the bad guy, and he's got to figure out how to save them. And that's the end of Act 2. Was that big tragedy? Is his friend's kind of now the bad guy, and he has to find a way to deal with it. Especially after making a promise to his son to save his friend. / promises which is son to save his friend / father. Alright, so that's the big setup there. Then we go into Act 3, which that's the setup conflict resolution style, but this is usually much more condensed. So we have the calm before the storm. So feels like he can't win on his own. So he goes to get help from his friends. So this is the big setup. Like, he's kind of in a bad situation. He can't win on his own. He's got to get help from his friends. He doesn't really know what he's going to do that. And then you get the big kind of a plot twist. Like, something terrible occurs. Basically, first friend's father has been abandoned city and kidnapped first friend. So this is kind of the big turning point. Is like the friend's father, who was much like his father when they first met, actually just decided to take all the really powerful people from the city, take all their wealth, kidnap his friend, and escape the city while everybody else is kind of shit out of luck because of the zombies. So MC murders a lot of people to rescue friend and shows friend his dark side slash so yeah, that's how that kind of sets up. Like the friend basically is saved by him, but it's by him murdering a few hundred people really quickly because he's got those kind of special powers, and he just basically falls back into his old assassination protocols that his father drilled into him from toddlerhood, and just murders a whole bunch of people. This is kind of his darkest moment. I can never I refuse to kill again / I thought I'd changed. Kind of have to be better point, but that's not really what's going to happen clearly. Then we move into kind of the setup conflict of Act 3, which is where he has to kind of go and fight the bad guy. Or like this starts with like his power within, like he's kind of coming back from the brink of darkness or whatever. So power of friendship / first friend, and says what he did was right / sometimes killing is necessary. Though he doesn't believe it, and kind of struggles against it at some point. We move into this is they set up the main character's kind of got a renewed resolve, and he goes after the bad guy. Mage, hunter, controlled, friend. So this is kind of the 24th point is kind of the convergence. So it's like all the characters of the main points gather for the big finale. Set up for a big fight as they meet the bad guy. Then we move into the last section. Give me 1 second. Still got these bad coughs. Alright, so on to the final 3 points. I think I can last out this. We have the big final battle. So, big fight. And another friend dies because MC couldn't kill which friend. So this is kind of the setup, like the main character has a chance to end it, but because of the whole murdering so many people in front of his first friend, he's still kind of gun shy about killing someone. He doesn't want his friend to die. And because of that, one of his other friends gets killed by the mind-controlled lich friend. So he resolves himself to kill / killing is sometimes necessary. And he kills the lich friend. Gets lich's memories for lich's son, and turns son back into human before finishing the world / traveling to world number 2 / 3, depending on if you count the first world as there. And that's where the story ends. So that's kind of how I set it up. And I'm going to go through this. And so what I would do next after this is maybe go in and fill out a few more pieces of information here and there, giving out a few more details. And for NaNoWriMo, what I did after I gave all those details was I just started making a chapter, like I wrote a paragraph for what happens in each chapter, and then just use that one paragraph to go from point to point to point. And not every, like, because sometimes one point takes like 2 or 3 chapters to do. So not every point is a single chapter. Sometimes it takes multiple chapters to get through. And for my NaNoWriMo project, the 27 points turned into 63 chapters. For this story, I believe it is 91 chapters, but they're all very short chapters. There's like a bunch of really short chapters. When I go back, I need to really focus a lot more on these, on the Act 2 part. I believe these 3, like these points right here, need to be expanded quite a bit. I need to expand quite a bit into this part. Add a bit more into the training stuff and spacing it out. I need to add a bit more into the timetable here, so it actually shows an actual like timetable, so the countdown's clear, but it doesn't feel like the main character's wasting time when he does other things. Because without a clear timetable, some of the actions, like the meeting the liches kind of stuff, is it feels like the character's wasting time. So I need to go back and add stuff for that. Add a few more details here and there. That way this feels a lot, because once this feels better, I think the rest of it will feel a lot better. Probably add maybe 2 or 3 more chapters in between these points. And then I got to come up with the name of the story. I have no idea. I'm still kind of stuck on it. Mage hopping? I don't know. I'm terrible with names for stories. A Mage's Guide to World Hopping. Book 1. Magic Zombies. I guess. Again, I'm terrible with titles. I do like calling this book Magic Zombies, though. But yeah, that's how I set up the story, and that's how I would do it. If I were writing another story, again, I would take these 27 points and I would make them into... I would give more details for each one, and then I would make a chapter-by-chapter outline. And there's like things you can do in like Scrivener. I don't really use Scrivener, but I only have Scrivener on this computer, so I'm using it for this. Anyways, I hope that's informative for some people. If you have any questions, just leave a comment, and I will try to respond to it as best I can. And if you guys want more of this, I can do a detailed kind of version, like maybe start a new story or do this for book 2 and see how that feels. It'll be very off the cuff, though, because I have no idea what's exactly going to happen in book 2, other than he's actually going to meet the actual Mage Hunter, and he's going to have to deal with Gundams. I do remember that's going to be happening. So, Magic versus Gundams in the next story. Anyways, thanks for watching.